Bosh! Hello and welcome to Stanchion Snacks, a bit of a mouthful. Now this is a cookery programme with a difference. So this season, what I'm setting myself a challenge for is to create a new matchday snack for every single Southampton game for the rest of the season. Starting, of course, with Wrexham at home. Now the little caveat that I've also set myself a target for is that this will be a dish that represents a past player of both Southampton and Wrexham since 1992. Now there's actually only two players that have played for Southampton and Wrexham since 1992. The first, Brett Ormerod, who is obviously now retired and is the assistant kit man at Bolton Wanderers. And the second is Jay Rodriguez, who I know is still playing for Wrexham, but I have decided that this first video will be a little love letter, a love recipe perhaps, to Jay Rodriguez. Now Jay, as we all know, is from Burnley, started his career there, local boy, but he is of Spanish descent. So I've decided that the first thing I'm going to create for you is basically going to be Welsh tapas. Now, tapas should always have 3 dishes, so I'm going to cook some Welsh Rarebit with a little Spanish twist. I'm going to cook some croquettes with a very Welsh twist, and then finally some tomato bread. Now, these 3 dishes, one of them is very easy, one is, you know, mid-range cooking, and the other one is quite difficult, so hopefully there's something for everybody here. So, I've got some Welsh and some Wrexham ingredients. So traditionally, Welsh Rarebit is milk and cheese melted with some breadcrumbs and flour, and you'll see as I cook it. But I'm actually going to use today some Wrexham lager. Ooh la la. Now, Wrexham is actually my closest away day to where I live. I don't actually live down on the south coast anymore. I'm up here in Shropshire, so I'm looking forward to the away game in April. So I managed to get this local beer in my hometown, which is great. So first thing I'm going to do is pop this open and have a taste, because I haven't actually had any Wrexham lager before. There we go. Let me get a glass. There's a wee cut. That's actually quite nice. Oh, that's very nice. There's a little bit of depth of flavour. Now, what I think I'm going to do is, so my usual recipe calls for 3 fluid ounces of liquid, of milk. I think I'm going to double that and then reduce this down by half, which should give us a bit of a stronger flavour. Okay, so there's 6 fluid ounces of lager, which is good. And I'm going to put that in a nice sort of big, large, flat bottom pan, and we will reduce it by half. It will go pretty quickly when it goes. So the cheese, because this is a love letter for Jay Rodriguez, I'm going to be using some Welsh cheese and a little bit of manchego as well. So I've got some Welsh cheddars, and then I've got some manchego here. So these are going to be our cheeses. I'm just going to take the rind off the manchego, which you can keep. A good use of cheese rind is you can put it in a jar with some oil, and then when you make like a tomato sauce or something like that, you can just drop the rind in. So I am now going to grate this cheese. Whilst I'm doing that, unless there's copyright issues, here's some clips of Jay Rodriguez bagging in some goals. Kapow, cheese is grated. Welcome back. So the beer has now reduced by half, and I've reweighed it so that you know that it is exactly half. So it now weighs 3 ounces. It started at 6. And I'm just going to let it come up to the boil. And then we're going to add the cheese. And then basically all we do then is just melt the cheese, and then we add the rest of the ingredients. You come on in. So as we can see now, the cheese is completely melted. It's nice and sort of liquidy. And I'm then going to add some flour and some breadcrumbs, both at the same time. Turn the heat down, and then you just want to continue to cook this until it basically leaves the sides of the pan. So we now have almost like this sort of paste, almost like a sort of mashed potato consistency. It's going to be good Welsh Rarebit, this. That's a shot. So we're then going to add about half a tablespoon of mustard. But if you like mustard, add more. Should I? Ooh. And a few splashes of Henderson sauce. This is like Leek Croquettes, but it's vegetarian. I don't really see the need to make something non-vegetarian when it can easily be vegetarian. And we're going to give that a good mix up. And then we want to let this cool, and we're going to add some eggs to it. And then it's ready to finish off. So that is basically our first tapas done. Okay, so whilst our rarebit is cooling down, we are going to champion another wonderful Welsh ingredient, which is the leek, my favourite, probably one of my favourite vegetables. And we are going to make some leek croquettes. So first thing I'm going to do is just take the end off. We only really need this nice, well, we need this nice middle bit here. And right in the middle of leek, so usually is this kind of bit that's almost woody. So we're going to take that out. We're going to keep that bit there. And this piece here, we are going to infuse in some milk. So into a pan like this. And we add our milk. And we're going to put that on a very low heat. We don't want it to boil. We just want the milk to come up to heat. And then this bit, I'm going to shred up nice and fine. So once that's diced, I'm going to add that into a small pan with a little bit of rapeseed oil and some butter. And then we're going to sweat that down with no colour until it goes really, really nice and soft. It's going to take quite a little bit of time. The milk's also going to take a little bit of time to infuse. So whilst that's happening, you can do whatever you want. But I'm going to have another one of these. Okay, so our milk's come up to the sort of simmer. So I'm just going to sieve out the leeks and any sort of, you know, you might have had little bits of soil or anything like that through there. And then back in my favourite pan, we are going to add 30 grams of olive oil. And I do like to weigh out things so that they're precise. Into this pan here. And 45 grams of butter. All right. So it's very important to add the flour slowly, a little bit by bit, or it won't cook out properly. And then when we come to fry our croquettes, they'll split. Now, I know a lot of chefs that don't have the patience to do this, but you have to do this slowly and take your time, and it makes a big difference. Just a little bit of, maybe a touch, little bit of golden, a little bit of colour. But now we're going to start adding the milk in a minute, and then it should thicken. And we're taking it to a similar consistency to the Rarebit, actually, and it's interesting how they both look sort of quite similar, and they're both two different techniques of thickening a liquid, but the methods are almost reversed and completely different. And you can be a lot more ruthless with your Rarebit, but got to be a lot more patient with your... And then we can add these leeks. Voila, très bien. So I'm going to let that cool down, and then we'll shape it. So I'm going to have a little clean down and maybe another beer. Welcome back. So the croquette mix is cool, and I've created now a penne anglaise, which is basically flour, egg wash, so just mixed up eggs, the ones that we saved from, that's got the white we saved from the rarebit, and then some panko breadcrumbs. Panko. And we're going to use this to coat the croquettes. So I've already rolled them into balls of about 40 grams. I sort of presumed you didn't really need to see me doing that. And I might get a little bit of flour on my hands. Let's have a look. Let's see. They are very oily. And once they're rolled into balls, you then want to shape them to the sort of the shape of your fingers. And we start by rolling that in the flour. Then into the egg. The egg sticks to the flour. And then finally into the breadcrumbs. And when you do this, you want to cut. You generally want to keep one dry hand and one wet hand. And then there you have it. One lovely croquette de leek, which we will now deep fry. So the croquettes are all rolled out, nicely ready to go, and I've got a pan of hot oil over here on the hob. I've got myself a handy thermometer, and I can see that it's about 185 degrees. If you don't have a thermometer, what you can do is just put a piece of bread in, and when it goes lovely and golden brown like this, you know that the oil is up to heat. That's a hazard. So I've got them on a nice clean tea towel, which we're going to keep on this tray so that we can drain them off afterwards. So here we go, the moment of truth. This is a moment in the in a traditional cookery program where someone like Rick Stein might sort of say something philosophical or break out into some poetry. Not me. Philosophical. I'm not going to do that either. I'm just keeping an eye on the croquettes. I always went a little bit Margot Pierre White there. I'm not going to be philosophical. I'm just keeping my eye. Philosophical. I'm not going to be philosophical. I don't have time for that. I'm keeping my eye on my croquettes. Fuck, they're burnt. Now you must be careful when creating a deep fat fryer at home. That goes without saying. This is actually a legal practice in a professional kitchen. You know, you can only use a deep fat fryer. You're not actually allowed to put hot pan of oil on a hob in a professional kitchen in the UK. But we're at home, we can do what we want now. I'm a home cook now. But okay, it's business time, people. The croquettes are cooking. I'm just preparing my bread. So we've got a nice sort of rustic, classic baguette. This is going to be for our tomato bread, which is one of the quickest, simplest things to do. And then I've got a bit of sourdough here for our rarebit. So, tea towel. We're just going to slip these under and keep a good eye on them. So this now is basically Bread Watch. Hi, I'm Chris Packham and welcome to Bread Watch. Just behind me here, we've got a baguette and a sourdough, which I'm keeping a particular eye on. Now, although both of these are very common and native in the UK now, when I was a little bread watcher growing up in the 90s, they weren't so common. So I still get very excited every time I see them. So you see how this is burst, but it's not all shooting out? That's because we cooked it out properly. If you hadn't cooked it for long enough, what would happen now is the filling would start to come shooting out of the mix. But see how it holds together there? That's because we've cooked it properly. Look at them, 4 little soldiers all lined up, ready for war. And a little bit of molten sea salt. I always use molten sea salt because I'm a prick. So it's time to finish the rarebit, and to make this a little bit more Spanish, I have got a bit of quince paste here, which I'm just going to spread firstly onto the nicely lightly toasted sourdough. Any Americans watching will be having a heart attack now because I'm touching things with my fingers. But I do like to wash my hands, so that's okay. And as this is a Wrexham-based dish, we might have some Americans watching, so howdy there in the USA. Rarebit, which is now nicely cooled, just roll, and then we're just kind of almost going to work it into a nice little, see, like that. So that's ready to go. Now I'm doing this in real time, like I'm almost doing a service in a kitchen, but you obviously don't have to if you don't want to. So we are going to toast all of those together. The baguette's going to go quite quickly in a moment. Ooh, some quince. So we've got a nice light toasted colour on the baguette here, and now we're going to make tomato bread. So the first thing you need is a clove of garlic that I've cut in half. I'm just going to rub that. That's a nightmare. I'm just going to rub that onto the toast like this. Pick it up, Shmi. That'll be okay for us. We'll call that a 10-second rule, hey? The floor's very clean, yeah. And then we are just going to hit that up with a little bit of olive oil. And then a grater. Now, traditionally, this was always done at the table. So they would just give you the things and you would just do it yourself. So this is a nice, ripe, fresh tomato. I'm just going to grate. And it doesn't matter if I get a bit of skin. But as I come down to the end, I'm just keeping my hand nice and flat. And this last sort of bit of skin we will get rid of. I'm going to do 2. We get this lovely, fresh tomato pulp. Oh, dearie me. This video is probably going to be about, I don't know, 15 minutes long or something like that, but it's taken about 2 hours to make, and I have been drinking Wrexham lager the whole time. Okay, so that is our lovely tomato pulp, which we're just going to season. Oh gosh. This is going to come together perfectly. We have a little bit of Maldon sea salt. I only use Maldon's. It's the best. And a couple of nice cracks of black pepper. Give it a little taste. You might be tempted to put the garlic into this rather than rubbing it on the bread. Don't. It makes such a difference. So, we get our bread back. Now, I don't want too much of the water, but that's it. Just then a nice, thin, sort of scraping of tomato on the top of the bread. And there we go. That's a simple one. I'm sure you can all do that. And bang on time. Hello, he didn't stop the camera, people. I'll try not to drop this one on the floor. There is our gorgeous Welsh Rarebits. Bang on time. Turn that off, and now all that's left to do is just to maybe plate this up. Something like this. It looks a bit beige, doesn't it? We need a prettier plate, I think. So there we have it, people. That is my love letter to Jay Rodriguez. We have lovely Leek Croquettes. We have the Welsh Rarebit here with quince, and we have tomato bread. And I think this deserves one more Wrexham lager, maybe. The ultimate beer snack. Let's try the croqueta first. I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. There's a lovely sweetness to the leeks. They've still got just a tiny little bit of bite. That's absolutely incredible. I really do encourage you to make these croquettes. Take your time, do it properly. If you ever hear of anyone putting mashed potato in a croqueta, punch them in the face, because it's not right. But the ultimate little beer snack there. I think the second thing that I will try is the tomato bread. This is normally the thing I like to order straight away, and the first thing that I eat in any Spanish restaurant. Beautiful, simple. This is just sort of good quality ingredients treated really, really well. It's my type of cooking, really. Again, incredible. Really strong garlic flavour just from rubbing it on the bread. I can't remember if this is the one I dropped on the floor or not, but it tastes superb. And finally, the Welsh Rarebit, something I've been making for years. Traditionally made with milk, but give it a go with beer. The beer flavour really comes through. There's a nice little sheepiness from the manchego, which is superb. And it needs that nice sweetness from the quince paste that just sort of brings it all together. So there we go, people. Enjoy. And I'll see you next week on Stanchion Snacks, a bit of a mouthful, where we will be cooking a dish for a player that has played for both Ipswich Town and Southampton. So comment below who you think that might be, and I'll see you next week. Please do like and subscribe. This is my first ever YouTube venture, so your encouragement is very much appreciated. Goodbye.